talk about time heals all wounds. And sometimes people say you keep going and you move on. Well, from my perspective, my opinion is this wound is never going to heal for me. No matter how much time goes by, when I'm 80 and when Marky is 80, we're still going to talk about Victor Luis, and it's still going to hurt that all this time was lost. All this time with him was lost. And in our case, it was for no good reason. So time isn't going to heal these wounds, and I don't believe that that applies. What I think happens is that the grief stays, the emptiness stays, but you get a little stronger. And if you imagine that the grief is weight, this enormous weight on your shoulders that keeps us down, it does, it keeps us down. But you get a little stronger to carry the weight. The weight doesn't get lighter, you get a little stronger. But it's always there. And that's one of the things that I think people don't understand, except for everybody maybe in this room. But that's the way I see that. It's very important. The most important thing to Marky and I is that we don't leave him in the past. He's not a footnote in our lives. He's a huge part of our family. And he always, always, always counts. So we celebrate him, and we talk about him all the time. I have his picture in my wallet, and one of my favorite things is when I have to show my ID at a store or something, his picture's right there next to it. And I love it when somebody sees his picture and says, "Oh, is that your son?" And I say, "Yeah, that's my little boy." And it doesn't hurt, it feels great. And that's something that's hard for people to understand because people shy away from mentioning his name, and I try to let them know, say his name. It hurts us when you don't. But Marky and I celebrate him every chance we get. We always talk about him. We always say, "I wonder what Victor Luis would be wearing for Halloween this year." Or, "What would Victor Luis be doing right now?" And Marky always knows. She says, "It'd be nap time right now." Or "I'd be feeding him right now. He'd be sitting in a high chair right now." She always knows exactly what he'd be doing no matter what time I ask. So we keep him alive in our family. We talk about him all the time. That's the biggest, most important thing to us as we carry on. The last thing I'd like to talk to you all about, I said that I was angry at God, and I was. I'm not angry at him anymore. I don't think this was his fault. And actually, it came over me like, I don't know if you say like a warm blanket or what, but one day I realized that I think that he was just as sad as we were when Victor Luis came out of Marky lifeless. And I think he was just as surprised, and I think he was crying just as hard as us. I think he was there with us, and I think he was crying just as hard. And from what I saw, the way Marky gained her kidney function, first she lived. She didn't have a stroke in addition to the kidney function, because the kidney failure happened as a result of shock. And she could have had a stroke, and she could have failed in addition to the kidney function. But she didn't. She lived, and she recovered, and she got all the way back to where we could start trying to have kids again, where she was healthy enough to do that. So I feel like God was there with us from the beginning and was in our corner, and has been since then. And one of the things that I didn't understand that I got from a friend while we were still in the hospital, I didn't understand it at the time, but I hope that it was true, was this poem. I don't know whether you've heard it before, but I'd like to read it now. It's called Footsteps in the Sand. It says, "One night a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the dark sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times of his life. This bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. 'Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I've noticed that during the most troublesome times of my life, there's only one set of footprints. I don't understand why when I needed you most, you would leave me.' The Lord replied, 'My precious, precious child, I love you and would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you only see one set of footprints in the sand, it was then that I carried you. I didn't understand what that meant when we were going through it, but looking back, I do. So that's how it is for us in this club. And that's how we keep going and keep on remembering our little guy. Thank you, guys.